Good morning, students. This is Miss Khyati Dwarkadas welcoming you for probably the last time on the rise of nationalism in Europe, a virtual class. Today, as you can see, we are going to discuss some question answers of this chapter. I will go over them very briefly and very quickly because they are with you. And in the previous videos, we've covered them in depth. But since exams are around the corner and that you have to be able to write and formulate and frame your answers, even for the board exam, I am going to discuss them with you. So very short answers, as we know, are those 1-mark answers. What did the idea of la patrie and le citoyen in the French Revolution signify? So la patrie, the fatherland, le citoyen, the citizen. What was the meaning of liberalism in early 19th century in Europe? Liberalism stood for freedom for the individual and equality for all before law. What was the main aim of the Treaty of Vienna 1815? The main aim of the Treaty of Vienna 1815 was to undo most of the changes that had come about in Europe during the Napoleonic Wars. What was the main aim of the revolutionaries of Europe during the years following 1815? The main aim of the revolutionaries was to oppose monarchical forms of government. It emphasized the notion of a united community enjoying equal rights under one constitution. Now we move to the 3-mark questions, children. These are called short answer questions. 3-mark answers are usually 60 to 80 words long. They normally would take you about half to 3/4 of a page or a side. So explain 3 ways in which the nationalist feelings were kept alive in Poland in the 18th and 19th centuries. And so we have the answer in front of us. Poland had been partitioned at the end of the 18th century by the great powers, Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Even though it did not exist as an independent territory, nationalist feelings were kept alive through music and language. Karol Kurpinski, for example, celebrated the national struggle through his opera and music, turning folk dances like the Polonaise and the mazurka into nationalist symbols. Language. After Russian occupation, the Polish language was forced out of schools and Russian was imposed everywhere. After an armed rebellion which was crushed, many members of the clergy in Poland began to use language as a weapon of national resistance. The use of Polish came to be seen as a symbol of struggle against Russian dominance. It was used for the church gatherings and all religious instructions. What were the effects of revolutionary upheaval in France in 1830? The Bourbon dynasty, which was restored in 1815, was overthrown by liberal revolutionaries. A constitutional monarchy was installed with Louis Philippe as its head. An uprising was seen in Brussels, which led to Belgium breaking away from the United Kingdom of Netherlands. The 1830s were years of great economic hardship in Europe. Examine this statement, giving suitable examples. Enormous increase in population led to widespread unemployment. Population from rural areas migrated to the cities to live in overcrowded slums. Small producers faced with stiff competition from imports of cheap machine-made goods from England. Peasants struggled under the burden of feudal dues and obligations in those regions of Europe where the aristocracy still enjoyed power. Rise of food prices or bad harvest led to widespread pauperism, poverty in towns and the countryside. Hist explained his contribution to the unification of Italy. Cavour was the chief minister of Sardinia-Piedmont. His contribution to the unification of Italy was, number one, he was a good administrator. At number two, he worked for the unification through a tactful diplomatic alliance with France, engineered by Cavour's Sardinia-Piedmont. He led the movement to unify the regions of Italy. He succeeded in defeating the Austrian forces in 1859. So as you can see, the question carries 1 mark for Hist and 2 marks for his contribution. So 2 points would suffice for his contribution. Explain the role of languages in developing national sentiments in Europe. Language played an important role in developing national sentiments. When Russia occupied Poland, the Polish language was banned and it was replaced by Russian language. Many members of the clergy in Poland began to use language as a weapon of national resistance. The use of Polish came to be a symbol of struggle against Russian dominance. Now you can see there are 3 simple, straightforward points mentioned here for a 3-mark question, and you have to explain these points. You have to elaborate. How did the concept of nation-state develop in Europe? So during the 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought about sweeping changes in the political and moral world of Europe. It resulted into nation-states in place of the multinational dynastic empires of Europe. It was a concept of modern states having centralized powers, exercising sovereign control over their own territory. In a nation-state, people living in it develop a sense of common identity and shared history. The commonness was developed through struggles, actions of leaders, and the struggles of common people. This has given every nation-state a single or a common language, common culture or tradition, and an identity with that territory and do and die feeling. So if it comes for 3 marks, you could have explained 3 points. For 5 marks, you explain all the 5 points. Now this question is self-explanatory. What changes did Napoleon introduce to make the administrative system more efficient? So in this case, you are explaining the Napoleon Civil Code of 1804. And that code is already given to you in my previous videos. And since this is a 5-mark question, you can see it lends itself to a 5-marker. It lends itself to a 3-marker. So you have the points with you. Always remember, every answer has an introductory statement followed by numbered points, margins on both sides, leave a line, draw a line at the end of every answer indicating it's the end, and then leave a line and restart. Culture played an important role in the development of nationalism in Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries. Elaborate. So you can see the introductory statement. Art, poetry, stories, music help in shaping nationalist feelings in Europe. Then the meaning of Romanticism. Collective heritage was developed. Folk dance, folk poetry, folk song considered to be the true expression of the spirit of the nation. Speaking in the vernacular language was another expression of nationalism. Now, if you can see, the answer here is only points. It is not 120 word long. You have to expand it. These are only guidelines for you. Examine the conditions of Italy before unification. So we have political fragmentation, Italians being scattered over several dynastic states, as well as the multinational Habsburg Empire. During the mid-19th century, Italy was divided into 7 states. Only one, Sardinia-Piedmont, was ruled by an Italian princely house. The north was under Austrian Habsburg. The center was ruled by the Pope. Southern regions were by the Bourbon kings of Spain. Italian language has not yet acquired one common form. It still had many regional and local variations. In case of a 3-mark answer, all 6 points to be explained. For a 5-mark answer, you just write any 5 points, but explain them. One of my previous videos has this in detail. And plus in 2 videos, I have given you notes in the description box. So I hope your notebooks are also updated. Thus, before I wind up with today's class, let me wish you an International Coffee Day. Therefore, those images in front of you. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you and have a nice day. Keep studying hard.